Goeiemorgen, good morning, Dumela, dobro jutro, kumasta. Today I'm going to show you how to make this masculine cross bookmark. There are many patterns out there for crosses and bookmarks or motifs, but many of them look very feminine and delicate and intricate. I was looking for something that's a bit more plain and rugged, if you can find rugged crochet, without it going into something thick and chunky, and I couldn't find one. So here's my best attempt. As said, one of the features of this is that it is more suitable for a masculine looking or a plain looking cross. It is thin enough that you can use it as is. I'm not attaching any tassels or strings or things to it because I wanted it to be rather plain and simple, and it is worked in one continuous piece of crochet from beginning to end, no border, just very plain and straightforward. In order to make this, I'm using a crochet number 5 acrylic from Ali in color Copperfield, which is a nice blend of brownish, coppery orange and weathered copper, greenish tints. Oh, you will only need a small amount. I will try to weigh it at the end to see how much it is. A 2mm crochet hook, and of course something to cut the end. Please note that when I crochet I use UK terminology, but when I remember I will mention the US equivalent and of course Afrikaans. In order to make this bookmark, you will need to know how to make a chain stitch, double crochet, chainless foundation double crochet, a standing double crochet, a slip stitch, fasten off. To make this, we will start with chain stitches, work DCs, extend into the cross arms for a few rows, and then work the rest until the end. All in one go, no multiple yarn ends to work in. You can start in whichever method you prefer. I'm making a slip knot, attach the yarn to my hook, and ready to start crocheting. Chain 14 to make a chain stitch, yarn around hook, draw up a loop, pull it right through, and that was the chain stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Make a double crochet in the second chain from the hook. The loop on the hook does not count as a stitch, so there is the first chain and there is the second chain. I will be working into the top loop or the back loop of those chains. If you want to, you can turn it over and work into the back bump. It will be neater since we're not making a border, but it will not be clearly visible on the video since camera limitations and probably my color choice. For row 1, make a double crochet in the second chain from hook. Insert hook into the loop, yarn around hook, draw up a loop. You now have 2 chains on the hook, yarn around and pull through both. That is 1 double crochet made. Continue to make 1 double crochet into each stitch to the end of the row. Insert into the loop, draw up another loop. You have 2 loops on hook, yarn over, complete the double crochet. So that is the 3rd double crochet. That one chain that we have skipped does not count as a stitch. It is just to make it possible to double crochet into the chain stitches. So 1 double crochet into every stitch to the end of the row. Almost done with the row. We started with 14 chains, skipped the first chain to make the double crochet, and then double crocheted 1 in every stitch, so we end up with 13 double crochets. End of row 1. Turn. Row 2 is the main pattern for the entire project. In the first stitch we make a standing double crochet. To make the standing double crochet, make sure the loop on the hook is fairly loose and immediately insert the hook underneath both loops of the first stitch. Then yarn around hook, draw up a loop. You have 2 loops on hook, yarn around hook and pull through both for a normal double crochet without any chains as you started, and then continue for the rest of the row to make 1 double crochet into every stitch, just as you did with row 1, except now the stitches that you're working into are double crochets and not chain stitches. So for each stitch of this row, insert the hook underneath both loops. You can turn it if that makes it easier for you. Oh, this is so small. You can turn the work if that makes it easier for you to clearly see both loops. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. The last stitch of the row, and that is the end of row 2. Row 3 and every further row all the way until row 19 will be exactly the same as row 2. We start with a standing double crochet. Make sure the yarn on hook is loose. Insert immediately underneath both loops. Draw up a loop and pull through both. Continue as with row 2. This will be row 3. Continue doing the same thing all the way to row 19. I'm at the last stitch of row 19. So row 19 is completed. Now for row 20, which will start off the same as all the other rows. Standing double crochet in the first stitch, and 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way to the end, which still leaves us with a stitch count of 13 for every row. We have not changed stitch count per row at all. Because we're all using double crochets with a relatively small hook size and thinner thread, it makes a rather tight weave. If you wanted it looser, you could up your hook size with half a millimeter or maybe 1. Stitch number 13 of row 20, which so far is exactly the same as the other rows. But now, after finishing the last stitch, we will now chain 13. So continue and count your chains as you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 13. That is the end of row 20. For row 21, we will turn this. Make sure to not twist the chain as you're turning. And then in the second chain from hook, using any loops that you prefer, make 1 double crochet. and in every chain stitch keep making 1 double crochet, so it will be a total of 12 double crochets in this chain part, which is with the one side arm of the cross. Since we've made 13 chains and we skipped the first one, that gives us a total of 12 double crochets, so 1 double crochet into every chain, and then when you meet the body of the cross you continue making 1 double crochet into every stitch underneath both loops, as we've been doing until now. So you will have the 13 double crochet, that's part of the normal, that's part of the vertical part of the cross, was 13 plus the 12 extra that we just got on the side arm, almost at the end of this. So after this I will count to make sure that we have indeed 25 double crochets. The 13 of the vertical, no, it fell out. The 13 of the vertical part of the cross, and then the 12 from this side arm. So let me see if I can count. Stitch count confirmed. Okay, so my phone ran out of space and stopped recording. We'll continue row 21 by working chainless foundation double crochets for the other arm of the cross. To do that, we'll go into the side of the last double crochet, draw up a loop, do not finish the stitch, draw up a loop again, only through one, until you have 2 loops on hook again, and then only complete the double crochet. For the next, that is one chainless foundation double crochet made. For the next stitch, insert into these 2 loops at the bottom of the previous chainless foundation double crochet, yarn over and draw up a loop. There are 2 loops on hook, yarn over, draw through 1 loop only, again 2 loops on hook, yarn over and complete the stitch. That is the second chainless foundation double crochet. Again, insert the hook into the bottom 2 loops of the previous stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. You have 2 loops on hook, yarn over and draw up a loop through 1 loop only, yarn over, pull through both. That was chainless foundation crochet number 3. Continue this until you have 12 chainless foundation double crochet. Turn over so you can see, at least I need to turn it in order to see what I'm doing. Insert at the bottom of the stitch underneath both loops, draw up a loop, pull through 1 loop only, pull through both. Continue until you have 12, and that will be the end of row 21. So you will have 12 plus 13 plus 12 stitches, giving you a total of 37, and I'll meet you there. That is the end of row 21. We have chains and double crochet. On this side bar, regular double crochet across through this part, and then again chainless foundation double crochet, which is the same thickness as the chain, and double crochet on the other side, so the 2 sides look the same. End of row 21, turn, and row 22 we're back into the familiar rolled pattern. First stitch is a standing double crochet, first double crochet of the row, then going underneath both loops, continue making 1 double crochet into each stitch right across to the end of row 22, leaving you with a total of 37 double crochets, and you will do this for row 22 all the way until you're at the end of row 28. So double crochet into every stitch till the end of the row, turn, standing double crochet into the first stitch, regular double crochet into every stitch all the way to the other side, turn again and again and again. We're at the start of row 29, and previously I said row 22 will be repeated all the way until the end of row 28. That was a mistake. Row 29 is also still the same row, so row 22 is repeated from 22, 23 all the way until the end of 29. Last stitch of row 29, still a stitch count of 37 stitches. Turn. We are now done with these horizontal bars of the cross, but the yarn end is here, and since I do not like to weave in loose yarn ends, we will slip stitch for 12 stitches until we are back in this part of the cross. Okay, insert yarn underneath both loops, yarn over as well as through the loop on the hook. There it is, through all. 1, yarn over and pull through all. 2, and 12. So we are now done, and we are back in only working this part of the cross. Okay, for the next one, it will be almost like a standing double crochet. Make sure the loop on hook is not too tight, because we will immediately go into a double crochet. I don't have a stitch marker or any extra bits of yarn with me, but this would be a good place to place a stitch marker, so you know where you need to stop at the next row. I'll just have to count. 1, 2. We are working 13 double crochet again, as we did for all the other rows down at the bottom. Which should bring us in line with the rest of that, and that is the end of row 30. We will skip these 12 stitches and go on to row 31. Turn, start the row with a standing double crochet. This all will be very familiar by now. That was the first double crochet. 2, 12 and 13. This would have been the first double crochet after the slip stitches, and see, it is in line there. Okay, so from there to there, again back to 13 stitches, end of row 31. Row 32 all the way until the end of row 38 will be exactly the same as row 31 was, and as all these other rows here at the bottom. Standing double crochet into the first stitch, double crochet into each of the next 12 stitches, giving a total stitch count of 13 stitches for the row, and I will meet you at the end of row 38. I'm now towards the end of row 38. The color changes on this yarn is quite far apart, and so it just happened to work out that the different parts of the cross almost corresponds with the color changes. That is definitely not intentional. In fact, I'm not sure if I like it. It kind of makes it blocky, or more blocky than it actually already is. So there's the last stitch, if I can get last stitch. That is the end of row 38. So all that's left to do now is fasten off. To fasten off, I chain 2, leave a long enough yarn tail to make it easy to work in the end. Cut, hook out and pull tight. I will weave in the ends. There it is, a very square, plain, no fuss and frills, and with this specific colorway, it makes it look, in my opinion, like a much more masculine cross. Until next time, have fun crafting. Oh, don't forget, the free pattern is available for download in my coffee shop, where you can also buy me a coffee, please. Thank you. See you next time.